Hi, everyone, and welcome to the summer session here at Prairie State College. I'm Professor Justin Pariseau. I'm going to be teaching you history over the next 8 weeks. I just wanted to offer everyone a welcome to the course and to the summer session here at the college. Although the college is closed due to the pandemic, at least the physical campus, we are a virtual campus, and that will remain so throughout not just the summer session, but the fall semester too, if you're planning on taking courses with us at the college through the end of fall term. Just a couple of quick things to note about that. There are really no changes to the way that our course will run this summer. I've always run an asynchronous course during the summer session, in part because of all of the job responsibilities that students have, various things going on, people going away for vacation. It's just too much to try to organize a synchronous learning experience where we'd be meeting all at the same time, having conversations at the same time, discussions together, lectures, and all of that. So the course is set up so that you're able to complete it at your own pace in an asynchronous fashion from week to week. So as you go through the course, each weekly module will be set up so that you're able to complete it Monday to Monday, with the exception of week 8, which is a shorter week. It'll run Monday through Thursday, and I'll have some more information about that as we get closer to week 8. So as you're getting started this week, be sure to be reviewing all of the content that's posted in the week 1 module and finish up that work and any assessments that need to be done for each given week. Those need to be completed by the following Monday at 11:59 p.m. So anything that starts today needs to be completed by next Monday, June 15th at 11:59 p.m. So that's broadly how things will work, and there's a little bit more information in the syllabus about how to get all of that done, as well as specific assignments you'll be doing each week. You can also review that by going to the content section of our course page. When you click on content, you'll end up navigating to all of the different weekly modules, as well as the syllabus and getting started module, where you should take a look at the syllabus. That'll outline all of my expectations for the semester, or for the summer session, as well as the things you need to complete. One other quick thing I wanted to cover on the first day of our class, the difference between primary and secondary sources. This is something that will be important for you to be aware of as you're working on the course content this session, in part because you're going to be doing a lot of work looking at primary source material, the raw materials of history that we use to try to understand the past. So the easiest way to understand the difference between primary sources, which are the raw materials of history, and the secondary sources that we use to try to interpret history, to learn more broadly about historical events, is that the primary sources are generated when the events happened. Secondary sources come much later. So just one example that I have to share with you, put it over here so everybody can see it. The Boston Massacre, A Family History by Serena Zabin. This was published in 2020, so it was published this year, which is a good indication that this would be a secondary source, because the events of the Boston Massacre happened back in the 18th century. So when we're looking at the ways we learn about the past, most students, generally speaking, before they take a college level course, are more familiar with secondary sources. So books like this, nonfiction books that are based on the primary source record, that are used to try to make sense of broader events, a general overview of historical events, all of that can be encompassed in a secondary source, generally written by a historian. Sometimes more so today than previously. You'll find journalists who like to do nonfiction histories and all of that. So it's always good to take a look at who's doing the writing. Are they a trained historian? Are they familiar with the use of primary source materials? Do they know the right questions to ask? Do they interrogate the source material? You need to be worried about the bias of the writer. You need to take that into account as well. Basically, you need to come to a secondary source with a critical eye. So that's a bit about secondary sources. Our textbook, for example, is a secondary source. The American Yawp was written by a number of different historians to kind of give everyone a broad overview of history. Now, when we get to primary sources, materials that are written when the events happen, in 1770, for example, with the Boston Massacre, we have the broadside that's on the front page of, or the cover, I'm sorry, of the book. And this was part of a primary source broadside with the coffins with the letters that you can see here across the top. And at the very end here, we have CA. That is short form for Crispus Attucks, the first man who was killed in the firing that took place in March of 1770 during the Boston Massacre. Crispus Attucks also happens to be of mixed African American and Native Indian descent. He is considered one of the first martyrs of the American Revolution. He's also quite significant historically because he doesn't fit with the prevailing narrative of the American Revolution that existed for a long period of time that excluded people of color. Crispus Attucks is one of the first people to fall during the American Revolution, and he literally gets whitewashed out of the history if we look at some of the examples of primary source evidence from the record. So in the book, for example, one of the resources that the historian writing this book includes, if we look at the page right here, and sorry, still getting used to some of the technology here. There we go. This is the Paul Revere engraving of the Boston Massacre, and presumably this person right here is the first person to fall, and that's Crispus Attucks. But as we can see there from the engraving, Paul Revere chose to not depict him as a man of African and indigenous descent. So when we look at primary sources, they are generated when the events happen, but we also still have to look at them critically. We have to think about what story the person is trying to tell in recounting the events. Does it give us an accurate picture of the past? Is it telling us the truth, or is it telling us a version of the truth? And those are important issues for us to look at. So whether we're examining the Journal of Christopher Columbus or a letter written by Jordan Anderson to a former enslaver in the period of Reconstruction, we need to be thinking about the context in which these records are being generated and what that can add to our understanding of the past and the challenges we may face as historians in trying to make sense of what they're trying to tell us. So if you have any questions at all about primary sources, how we use them, how we interpret them, how you're supposed to use them to write your papers, your quick writes throughout the course of the semester. If you have any questions about the course after you review the syllabus, please feel free to reach out. Email me at jpariseau@prairiestate.edu or use the Ask the Professor forum that's under communication in the discussion boards, and I'll be happy to try to help you out. I hope you learn a lot this semester. I hope we learn a lot together as we go through the content and discuss it via the quick writes in the forums. So if you need any assistance along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. Hope you have a great start to the week and a great summer session.